Hello, I'm Greg Utzig. I'm a conservation ecologist in Nelson, and I'm going to be speaking around climate disruption and specifically focusing on the Golden area. So we'll start by looking at seasonal temperatures in Golden. As you can see, over the past century, there hasn't been a lot of variation. And it was a bit warmer in the 20s and 30s, as most people are familiar with. And secondly, it started to come up slightly recently. But what we want to do is talk about what may happen in the coming decades. And to do that, we need to think about what are we going to do in terms of carbon emissions. The more we emit, of course, the warmer it's going to get. And for this case, we're going to look at three different options. This is the average of 15 different scenarios. As you can see, in the coming decades, temperatures are going to increase in all seasons. And in the worst case, if we continue on our current trajectory, it could be almost 6-degree increase in summer maximum temperatures. I think the important thing to note is that beyond the 2020s, this decade, all the temperatures are going to be outside of the range of what we've experienced over the previous century. So we're into unknown territory. And this is true for all four seasons, actually. If we look at precipitation, it's been much more variable over the past century. And the increases again generally show, or the future projections generally show increases in precipitation, with the exception of summer precipitation, which is shown to decrease slightly. So if we think about that, we're talking about increasing temperatures, decreasing summer precip. So it's basically going to be drier. What does this mean in terms of ecosystems? We look at the distribution today. We got mainly interior cedar hemlock north of Golden, and south of it, a combination of montane spruce and interior Douglas fir at the lower elevations, Engelmann spruce subalpine fir, and lots of alpine and alpine parkland in the upper elevations. If we look forward, we're going to look at the possibility of three different scenarios. These kind of outline the edge of 40 different possibilities that were looked at for British Columbia. The reason we did that was we don't really know which of these are going to be right. So the answer is somewhere between these three. And if we look at the most optimistic, the warm, moist one, we're looking at changes in the lower elevations where the interior Douglas fir extends further north. We pick up grasslands and steppe along the edges of the trench. Upper elevations become a combination of coastal type climates, interior cedar hemlock and mountain hemlock. And you'll notice the Engelmann spruce subalpine fir pretty much disappears. In the hot, wet scenario, we get a lot more snow at high elevations. Alpine actually increases. The trench becomes dominated by interior cedar hemlock. And again, the Engelmann spruce subalpine fir pretty well disappears. And if we look at the hot, dry one, we get a real difference. We're looking at grasslands extending all the way up into the bush arm with a lot of ponderosa pine, and the upper elevations being various combinations of interior cedar hemlock. And again, the Engelmann spruce subalpine fir is gone. I think the important thing to think about, though, is from a regional perspective, we look at the Columbia Basin in Canada, Golden area is actually a unique area in that it's not as hot and dry as much of the rest of the Columbia Basin. And it, in fact, has a potential wet pool refugia. Therefore, it's really important to start thinking about regional connectivity in this context, such that things can move as they have to. These purple show various possibilities for connectivity up the trench, as well as up along Kutenai Lake and the west side of the Purcells. So what can we do? I think Greta pretty well says it. Specifically, locally, we can look at putting in some kind of a conservation plan. We can look at increasing our monitoring, particularly around phenology. And lastly, we need to really think about reducing our emissions. Thank you.